Nihilists argue that if our freedoms are limited by societal structures, then are we truly free? Or have we bound ourselves with invisible chains? A thought-provoking example comes from an online discussion where someone asked, if you had to choose between saving your pet or a stranger, who would you save? Most people chose their pet. When confronted, one responder asked, why do you believe human life is worth more than an animal's? No one had a definitive answer. This is the core of nihilism. If we can't justify our values, why do we hold them at all? Of course, nihilism can be unsettling. If nothing truly matters, then what's the point of progress, human rights, or scientific advancements? The idea that everything we do is ultimately meaningless can be terrifying. Friedrich Nietzsche wrestled with this dilemma, famously declaring, God is dead. He didn't mean this literally, but rather that traditional religious and moral structures were losing their authority. While he saw nihilism as an inevitable stage of human development, he also warned that it could lead to catastrophe. If nothing matters, how can we condemn atrocities like slavery or genocide? Without an objective moral framework, how do we define right and wrong? Some blame Nietzsche for influencing dangerous ideologies, but he believed nihilism could be a stepping stone to a new morality. Instead of viewing the destruction of old beliefs as a loss, he saw it as an opportunity to build something greater. And perhaps that's the key. If we must live in a meaningless world, we should strive to create our own meaning. Instead of obsessing over whether the glass is half full or half empty, maybe we should throw out the glass entirely and drink straight from the faucet until we're satisfied. The world is changing rapidly. Religion no longer dictates morality. Long-standing traditions are being challenged, and people are forging their own paths. We're moving closer to a society where no one can tell another person they're wrong, because why are they wrong? This is the ultimate nihilistic question. William Shakespeare once wrote, life's but a walking shadow, a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. If that's true, then perhaps the best response is to make the most of our time here. Because even in a meaningless universe, we still have one undeniable truth. We are alive. And that alone is reason enough to keep going. Alright guys, that's it for today's video. What do you think about nihilism? Is it a liberating philosophy or a dangerous road to despair? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this discussion interesting, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss future videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving deep into one of the most intriguing and unsettling philosophical ideas of all time, nihilism. What if life has no inherent meaning? What if everything we do is ultimately pointless? Is that a reason to despair? Or can we actually find freedom in it? Stick around as we unravel the paradox of nihilism and what it means for the way we live our lives. We all know how life goes. One day we're born, and one day we die. Everything in between, we understand to some degree. But what about everything? Before birth and after death? That's where things get murky. If we can't determine where we came from or where we're going, how can we possibly define the meaning of life? This uncertainty has haunted humanity for centuries, leading to one of the most profound existential questions. Why are we here? Throughout history, different ideologies have attempted to answer this question. Religion often provides comfort by suggesting that a deity created the universe with purpose, and our actions on earth determine our eternal fate. Others believe meaning comes from love, relationships, or the simple act of existing. But for nihilists, the answer is far more unsettling. Life is meaningless. Every action, emotion, and experience, whether good or bad, is ultimately without significance. This is the foundation of nihilism, the belief in nothing. At some point in our lives, many of us encounter nihilistic thoughts. We question the beliefs we once held dear and wonder whether anything truly matters. This often happens when we transition from childhood to adulthood, leaving behind the ideologies we inherited and forging our own. It all starts with a simple yet powerful question. Why? That three-letter word has the power to shake the very foundations of our worldview. If you keep asking why, long enough you eventually reach a dead end, nothingness. Even with all our scientific discoveries and religious teachings, we still can't answer why with certainty. And for the nihilist, that's enough to conclude that there is no inherent meaning. There is only nothing. Philosopher Alan Watts once wrote, "Life is nothing more than a trip from the maternity ward to the crematorium." The term nihilism itself comes from the Latin word nihil, meaning nothing, and ism, meaning ideology. But understanding nihilism requires distinguishing it from other philosophies. Many people confuse nihilism with pessimism, but they are fundamentally different. Pessimists believe that life is filled with suffering and that bad outcomes are inevitable. They acknowledge the existence of good, but believe it will always be overshadowed by evil. Nihilists, however, reject the concept of good and evil entirely. They see morality as a human construct rather than an objective truth. To illustrate this, consider the classic metaphor of a glass of water. Optimists say the glass is half full, pessimists say it's half empty. But nihilists, they say the glass doesn't matter at all, because in the grand scheme of things, it's irrelevant. Nihilism is often compared to cynicism and apathy, but these two are distinct. Cynics believe that people are inherently self-serving, but they still acknowledge the existence of good and bad. Apathetic individuals might believe in meaning, but simply don't care. Nihilists, on the other hand, see all attempts to assign meaning as arbitrary. This leads to a paradox. If you believe in nothing, then that very belief in nothing becomes something. So does true nihilism even exist? Historically, nihilism began as a literary concept before evolving into a philosophical stance. Over time, different branches of nihilism emerged. Political nihilism advocates for the destruction of all political, social, and religious structures to allow humanity to start anew. Ethical nihilism rejects absolute moral values, arguing that good and bad are merely social constructs. Existential nihilism, the most well-known form, asserts that life itself has no inherent value or meaning.